It's 5:05 p.m. in Cameroon and 12, a little afternoon in Washington, D.C. We are live. This is Angie Forbin. You can catch me with the same handle on YouTube and on Facebook. There's a post-electoral crisis in Cameroon. Several close allies of Issa Chiroma, who is claiming victory, have been arrested as of yesterday, and hundreds continue to be swept by forces of law and order. In the meantime, several ministers, as well as different civil society organizations, have come out to call on peace and to condemn what they think is a breach of the law by the man who says he won the election by over 50%. Issa Chiroma came out this morning to say that his life was threatened, that they had threatened some unidentified men had threatened to abduct him, and it was thanks to some whistleblowers that he was tipped off and able to escape. Yesterday, he had also said or asked Cameroonians to come out en masse to protest and to defend what he considered the people's victory. We see the unrest in the country, it looks like in different parts of Cameroon, at least three different regions. The call is being answered. In Douala, in various neighborhoods, people are coming out to say Issa Chiroma is the president and Mr. Mbah, who is 93 years old, should step down. We've seen the same effervescence in Marwa in the far north, as well as in Garwa. They are saying Mr. Mbah should step down. In the diaspora as well, people have been mobilizing, activists have been calling on Mr. Mbah to step down in various places in Europe. But away from the different conversations or declarations from different civil society organizations, we also have the men of law who ensure that the people who are arrested have a decent trial, are treated humanely, and try to ensure that the country, the rule of law is respected and order is respected. And so the current president of the Cameroon Bar Association, Mr. Mbah, Eric Mbah, who was recently re-elected for his second term, is going to be joining us to discuss the human rights component of this electoral crisis or the electoral process in Cameroon. And you might want to know that four main allies of Issa Chiroma, Professor Abba Oyono was picked up yesterday by armed men. He was brutalized in his home in a Yaoundé neighborhood. But on the night before, on Friday evening, Anise Ekane was arrested. Jokam Chameni's house was rummaged through by defense forces. He was taken into custody, as well as Fabrice Lena, the one-time campaign manager of the PAL candidate Ateki Seta Caxton, was also arrested. So we'll be discussing with the Cameroon Bar Association president to tell us a little bit more about how you navigate the system within the system. Barrister, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. It looks like we lost him again. We'll be waiting for him to connect with us. There might be some internet connectivity challenges, as we've seen in the last 4 days. Many Cameroonians are reporting that the internet connectivity in Cameroon has significantly slowed, and there are outages in several places. Many people think that the regime is behind this malfunction, as it was in the heat of the Anglophone crisis, when the two English-speaking regions of the country were shut off the internet for 3 months. And so you might want to know that Cameroonians are currently protesting in different cities following a call by the national FSNC president, who has claimed victory based on the return slips or the vote tally sheets that he had. He's saying he's the one who won the presidential election. The government has come out to say it is a lie. He cannot be trusted because he has a past. And they are set to announce the official results at the Constitutional Council in a very highly contested presidential election. Barrister, we keep losing you and finding you again. We hope that this time is a charm. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly, sir. Can you hear us in return? And so the Cameroon Bar Association president, Barrister Mbah, Eric Mbah, is our guest this afternoon. He discusses the stakes of this electoral crisis, the role of the men in the black robes and the wigs, and the role that the Bar Association Council can play in ensuring that there's a smooth electoral process. We'll find out from him if they monitored the election and what his findings were. But again, if you're joining us now, this is Angie Forbin and you are live. We are live on YouTube and on Facebook, and the handle is the same as the name. On October 12th, so 2 weeks ago, Cameroonians turned out in their numbers. We know that there were 8.2 million people who were registered to vote. They turned out to vote the person that they want to see as the next president of Cameroon. And there's a strong group of them who voted for Issa Chiroma in an election where he was clearly seen as a favorite, right? And the crowds he pulled in the different parts of the country. Today, the government contests the return sheets that he has produced, the tally sheets. In fact, they carried out a series of arrests over the weekend, picked up several people, and some of them they paraded to the press, claiming that they had confessed to fabricating return sheets, but also that they were in possession of weapons. But again, this is somehow similar to the things that we saw in previous elections in Cameroon. You might want to know that since the 90s, the return to multi-party politics, elections have been consistently contested in Cameroon and marred by gross irregularities. The first, what we can consider as free and fair elections, or the only two free and fair elections that have been organized in Cameroon, were in 1992, the legislative and then the presidential elections. And Mr. Biya is said, according to diplomatic sources, to have lost them. And so we'll have a conversation today. We'll ask questions to the president of the Cameroon Bar Association, Barrister Mbah, Eric Mbah, and he'll be telling us about the role that the Bar Association can play in ensuring or monitoring elections in Cameroon, but also how the rights can be, what the law says about protests. How you get in touch with a lawyer, for example, because many of these people don't know if and how the law protects them when they go out to protest in the streets. They don't know who to get in touch with. We'll also probably be discussing the incarceration levels in our different prisons in Cameroon. Many of them are super packed, over capacity. These are some of the things that we'll be discussing today throughout a 30-minute conversation with Barrister Mbah Acha. Sorry, Barrister Eric Acha. Gilles Stéphane, hello, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us. It's been one of those weekends. I hope that you are staying safe out there, depending on where you are in the country. As you know, there have been massive arrests throughout last week. The Interior Minister had come out to say that they had been tipped off and they had received, based off of the intel that they had received, they had proceeded to arrest a group of people that he considers had a Machiavellic plan to destabilize Cameroon. But yeah, Cameroon is at a major crossroads now. and people are protesting in different cities of the country. They are asking for Mr. Biya to step down, and they are hoping that they would live in a country, and they're dreaming and hoping that they would live in a country where they can have access to running water, to electricity, and that the rule of law in Cameroon can actually be a reality, and there would not be a minute percentage of the population that thrives on impunity. And so we know that currently in different areas of the country, there are protests. In Douala, for instance, is a very heated environment. But we are also told that the military is doing its best, the gendarmerie is doing its best to respect the civic rights of people. And so they are accompanying them as they exercise their constitutional rights to expression, to protest. As you have seen, very uncommon images to see from Cameroon, where the gendarmerie is gently guiding the crowd as they march in the streets, asking for Mr. Biya to step down and saying that their true president is Issa Chiroma. He has claimed victory since 24 hours after the presidential election, so the 13th of October. Since then, there have been widespread on and off protests. That same week, on the 15th, there were protests in Bafang in the West region, as well as Chang, but also in the Littoral and then in the different northern regions. But we've seen police officers or men in law enforcement have a less forceful approach to protesters as they revindicate or they adhere to Issa Chiroma's claim of victory. The images we saw there in Douala were from Douala a few hours ago, and we're going to be sharing more with you as they come in. But yeah, Cameroon is at a crossroads. Issa Chiroma says he's the winner of the presidential election and has dared the Biya regime to prove the contrary. Meantime, his life is at risk. He says that some unidentified men tried to come and abduct him yesterday, but he was saved by a human shield that has taken up residence in front of his home since the elections. And this is not a new occurrence. In 1992, where I'm taking you back down memory lane, in 1992, in front of Nijon Frundi's residence in Tarikon, boulders were set up by the population and people camped in front of his house to protect the man that they believe, and with reason, had won the election. I'm going to take you back to Douala a few moments from now, just so that you can continue to witness some images that are coming from there that are different from the ones that you would usually see where police crack down and shoot people as they did in 2018 after a presidential election, in 2019 after the presidential election.
À Douala, au niveau de la Total Posam, Douala, Total Posam, ça ne va pas, rien ne va. Rien ne va à la Total Posam. Ça ne donne pas. Renforce, renforce. Donnez la renforce, la renforce. Oh là là, total posam, total posam. Rien ne donne à la 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 total posam. Rien ne donne. Rien ne donne. Que Dieu nous donne la chance, mes frères. Rien ne donne, rien ne donne. Rien ne donne, rien ne donne. Rien ne donne, rien ne donne. Rien ne donne.
You can hear it. They're chanting Chiroma. They're chanting Chiroma, and there's a guy in the background with the commentary Rien ne donne, as if to say nothing seems to work in Cameroon. And he might be right. More than 80% of the population is unemployed or underemployed. The country struggles to have potable water for drinking. The prisons are packed and far beyond capacity. The government cracks down and threatens or has a very stern and tone-deaf approach to dissidents. It demonizes its opposition leaders. And these young people in the streets who came out in their unprecedented numbers to vote, to register in this election in 2025, are saying they've had enough of a 92-year-old man with 43 years in power under his belt, who is seeking an eighth term that will put him at 50 years. 50 years in power, were he to take office tomorrow after the proclamation of results by the Constitutional Council, that is widely seen as not credible. If you're joining us from anywhere in the world, I am Angie Forbin, and we are live. This is Facebook, but you can also catch us on YouTube. The handle is the same as the name. That was Marwa. All the way in Marwa, of course, in the three northern regions, there is unrest. There has been steady unrest. But early this morning, there was an eerie calm after Mr. Chiroma came out to say that his life had been threatened, that unidentified men had tried to come and abduct him. But he was saved thanks to a tip-off from a whistleblower who was prompt to expose a plan. And clearly, there is some level of division within the ranks of the military or the BR regime. You can see that some people are, tipping off or making these different communication sources aware of possible plans and the government's strategy to crack down on dissidents. We'll take you over to Batonnier in a little while, where we are learning that there are equally protests there, and the population has come out to say that it might just be time for Mr. Mbah to pack out of the Unity Palace where he has been for the past 43 years.
Whoa, 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 Sign the paper. Whoa, I don't like that. Whoa, 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 whoa.
It is high with fear. We could hear gunshots. We cannot quite identify from where they came from, but gunshots all that's the same before peaceful protesters are never a good thing, never tells well of the regime. And in fact, those are some of the things that make a regime a dictatorship. They crack down on dissidents, they use force and weapons on people who have nothing but their arms and their feet and pancards or posters with messages. So if you're joining us, Angie Forbin it is. The name is the same as the handle on YouTube and on Facebook, and we are live. We'll be here discussing the stakes of the election, the post-electoral crisis, was also expecting to sit down in an interview with the current Cameroon Bar Association president. Nkemako Narius Tendong, thank you so much for your time. Let Mr. Bia step down. The bloodshed in Northwest and Southwest is enough. And so you can clearly see that the reasons why people are supporting Mr. Issa Chiroma today and ready to go down into the streets, and some of them have created a human shield in front of his home, are different. Some of them are Anglophones who had vomited the Cameroonian regime since 2016 when the government decided to open fire on peaceful protesters who were asking to live in their country like normal human beings as the Constitution allows for them to do. Some of them are from the northern parts of the country, fed up of the misery, one of the most enclaved regions, which is wrought with crime, insecurity. Of course, we know of the defense challenges they face there with Boko Haram. Their attacks in the last 2 years have been on the rise. The poverty there, some of the highest illiteracy rates in the country come from there. But also, they've been exposed to all kinds of natural disasters, the drought, elephants destroying their produce and their crops. And so the frustrations are different. The Western group or the grassroots group of people are sick and tired of being stigmatized, of being called all kinds of names and being the butt of the joke. And so there are different people from different regions of the country who are supporting Mr. Issa Chiroma today and saying that they are fed up and they are tired, as we have seen in the comments with Mr. Gilles Stéphane, Mr. Narius Tendong. If you're just joining us, I am Angie Forbin. The name is the same as the handle. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Okay. This morning, Issa Chiroma came out, the man who is claiming victory, came out and said that his life was at risk. He was being threatened. Some people had tried to enter into his home and abduct him, but the operation was thwarted, or they were stopped by a human shield that has been built around his house ever since the election. And this would not be the first time. In 2018, we remember the death threats that Maurice Kamto had been receiving publicly. Some people had gone into and vandalized his home and threatened him in front of his residence and recorded them. And the government remained tight-lipped. And so the intimidations and the threats and the attempt to kidnap political or opponents in Cameroon is really not a new thing. We'll be playing a quick clip of no more than, it's probably less than 3 minutes, just so that you can see what Issa Chiroma, the president of the FSNC, had to say this morning.
Chers compatriotes, bonjour. Je voudrais ce matin partager très rapidement avec vous une information insolite qui aurait pu m'être fatal n'eût été la protection divine. Ce matin, j'ai été réveillé par des annonceurs qui ont attiré mon attention sur le fait que ma maison était lourdement envahie par une équipe de militaires et d'experts, l'objet étant de m'extirper de ma maison et de m'amener. Grâce à Dieu, grâce à cette information que j'ai reçue donc des lanceurs d'alerte, cette opération a été vouée à l'échec. Je voudrais donc remercier les uns et les autres pour leur contribution, car n'eût été donc cet avertissement persistant qu'ils m'ont adressé, peut-être que le pire aurait pu arriver. Je remercie donc les lanceurs d'alerte et merci pour leur contribution. Mais merci également à toutes les populations aujourd'hui qui constituent la chaîne humaine de protection de mon intégrité physique et de ma protection. Merci beaucoup. Demeurons vigilants. Cette conspiration, dont l'objet était donc de m'extirper de ma maison, de m'amener à une destination qui leur est connue, qu'est-ce qu'ils allaient en faire de moi? Est-ce que c'est pour m'emprisonner, pour me tuer? Je ne sais pas. Mais toujours est-il que cette conspiration a donc échoué. Je demande aux uns et aux autres de rester vigilants. Je voudrais également faire savoir à celui qui préside encore au destiné de cette nation, M. Mbah, que le seul crime que j'ai commis aujourd'hui, c'est d'avoir gagné l'élection présidentielle. Il ne s'en accommode pas, mais telle est la volonté du peuple camerounais. Je resterai toujours fidèle à cet engagement, que le peuple sache que je lui resterai fidèle, et jusqu'à ce que l'objectif qu'ensemble nous nous sommes fixés dans le cadre du changement, que cet objectif-là soit atteint. Restez donc vigilants, restez conscients, sachez que je reste donc l'homme que vous avez choisi, sur qui vous avez jeté votre dévolu, et je m'engage donc à ce que l'objectif que nous nous sommes fixés soit réalisé. Merci aux lanceurs d'alerte, je vous remercie.
That was Issa Chiroma this morning saying that there was an attempt on his life. Joining me now is Mr. Mbah Eric, who happens to be the Batonnier for the Cameroon Bar Association. Mr. Barrister, good afternoon again, and thank you for joining us once more. What is the take of the Bar Association with the present political atmosphere? So the network, once again, is playing tricks on us. But if you can hear us, we would love to hear what you think, what your view is, or what the Bar Council thinks about the current political climate in Cameroon. While we try to reconnect with him, if you're joining us, this is Angie Forbin. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Cameroon is at a crossroads. We are in the middle of a post-electoral crisis. There are widespread protests in different regions of the country as we speak, as well as in some countries in Europe, after Issa Chiroma called on Cameroonians to come out en masse and protest or defend their victory and celebrate the victory of the people. Joining us this afternoon, we hope we can connect with him, is the president of the Cameroonian Bar Council. But before that, we'll take you to the northern regions, or to the littoral region of the country, where we are told that there are equally protests going on right now.
Vous voyez, ça y est. Voilà, la police suit maintenant.
We could hear the bullets, but we are also learning that at least four people may have been killed at Kululun in Douala this afternoon. We could see the police opening fire on protesters as they continue to demand the departure of Paul Biya, who has served for 7 terms and is seeking an 8th term. The Constitutional Council results are set to be announced tomorrow, and that is when we will know the official, or the country expects to know the official winner of the Cameroonian presidential in a highly contested presidential, where Issa Chiroma, based on the return sheets that he had, confidently believes that he won that presidential election. Pro-Biya activists and collaborators of Mr. Biya say it's a lie and he should wait for 15 days, the proclamation of results. And my question to you today is, do you think that he must wait for 15 days before he declares himself winner? Especially when we see a country like Ivory Coast that went to the polls yesterday and is ready to announce the results today, less than 24 hours after. Food for thought. Mr. Narius Tendong says, if you can also bring in CONAC members here to ask them their position. We saw videos on bribery at the polling stations. If it is a country that respects the rule of law, we expected those individuals to be arrested or investigated for corruption. Your question is noted. Angie, please try to bring in OC of the SDF to let him tell us his position. He claimed he has 31,000 polling agents in polling stations. Let him speak the truth and disprove Elekam during this difficult moment. Staying mute with the truth is not saving the situation. Your question comes to echo that of many others that point in the same direction. There have been opposition candidates who have come out and said, based on the procès-verbaux that they have or the vote tally sheets that they have in possession, they know that they have not won the election and they've already conceded defeat. And the question keeps coming. Why are they not clearly saying who won the election? Why are they not providing these tally sheets to compare with the ones that Issa Chiroma has produced to confirm or to embolden his claim or to weaken it? That question has continued to arise. Many opposition leaders have remained very coy about these declarations, except for two of them. Akerimuna has clearly come and stated that the will of the people was reflected in the polls as that for a strong desire for change. But also, Iram Iyodi of the FDC party had come out and asked Mr. Biya to step down, citing the will of the people. So at least we've had some two brave hearts who have come out to say, without mincing words, what the results look like. But there are many Cameroonians who believe that some more opposition leaders could have, joined their voices and been a little bit more elaborate or offered more clarity.
Voilà, Monsieur Zimento, en direct de Garoua. En direct de Garoua. Voilà tout ce policier contre le pouvoir de Paul Biya.
We are back. This is Angie Forbin live. One thing that continues to emerge from all these images with these protests that we see is the constant. One thing that is constant is the state of the roads of the country, the size of the roads, the quality of the roads. Some of them are inexistent, and the ones that we see are tiny, winding, treacherous paths in the 21st century, whereas we know that a lot of money has been borrowed from international institutions, financial institutions for development, but it just doesn't seem to meet the expectations that Cameroonians would have in the 21st century. And this might be one of the reasons why they are coming out to call on the 92-year-old leader that has led the country for 43 years to step down and to respect the will of the people that has allegedly gone in a direction that is not in favor of him.
Arrive, oh les mamans. Maman, je sais pas si.
That was in Balengu, another place in the Western region. Mothers coming out with children and peace plans and saying, Mr. Bia, it's time for you to leave. Issa Chiroma is coming. And the message is strong and is clear. Cameroonians have an aspiration for change, a desire to see their country know a different destiny. Many of them have been exposed to through globalization and the advent of social media, through pictures and through travel, have been exposed to other countries and other realities, and think that Cameroon has the natural resources and potential, intellectual potential, to have something different, to experience life differently, to have access to better quality of education, potable water, electricity, a rule of law that is respected. And so they're out in the streets today saying that they've had enough. They're out in the streets saying, Mr. Bia, yes, you inherited a country from Amado Ahijo that was prosperous. You have tried your own. You have some merits. You have a legacy, but you have also done some very damaging things to the economy of the country. The rule of law has not always been expected. People have thrived in impunity. There's been corruption and embezzlement. We remember that Transparency International had constantly ranked us amongst the most corrupt on the African continent. And so they are out in the streets today saying that they are taking their own destiny into their hands. They are answering to the call of Issa Chiroma. They are celebrating him, and they are saying they are tired of Mr. Bia. And that's why they are in the streets today. If you're joining us, Angie Forbin, we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Kenneth Bong Munyong, and please forgive me if I chop your name. You say it is time to dispense with the myth that Bia is not the problem, but his collaborators. At no point has he shown any leadership during this electoral period. Announcement of his candidacy via social media, no policy to improve the well-being of the population. And you raise an interesting point, because indeed there was no personal announcement of his saying that he was now running for president. And if you can hear some noise, the thumping in the background, it just happens to be my washing machine. but back to business. Just like you said, Kenneth, he announced his bid to run for office for an 8th term in a very interesting way. It was on social media by text. And we seldom or almost did not see him during the campaign trail. He flew abroad for a week, and journalists close to the civil cabinet claimed that he was going on a private trip to care for his ailing daughter. But then he came back and he went to Marwa, which was considered his only campaign, which was his only campaign stop, during which he had a brief speech. His aircraft had a failure, was faulty, and he couldn't fly back immediately as he usually would do. He spent the night there, and the next morning he was on his way out. And after that, nobody heard anything from him. Even the Lekki division, where he is known, he always goes to after Marwa. He didn't show up there. And we just saw him again at the polling station. So yes, indeed, he was very seldom present, very absent during this campaign period. And this is another reason why Cameroonians are asking themselves, how come he manages to claim victory every single time when he is not seen during the campaigns? He doesn't seem to care about the people. You might want to know that the High Judicial Committee has not met in the past 8 years, a thing that is unusual. And so magistrates, judges who are due retirement have not been able to get released for retirement. But also, a young crop of magistrates who are coming out, who have just been churned out of school, have not been posted to their areas of duty. And so the system is paralyzed in many other sectors. If you scratch the surface, you realize that there's a general dysfunction, or the system is paralyzed because it is highly centralized and rests entirely on the shoulders of one man. And so, like you say, Kenneth, how then can everybody but he be blamed for the dysfunctions that we are seeing everywhere? We've been here for 40 minutes. We've been hoping to connect with the Bar Council, the Bar Association president. For some reason, due to connectivity, we've not been able to. And really, we wanted, but God makes the final decision, as it's said. So apologies for not being able to bring that guest of importance on here to discuss the human rights component of the current post-electoral crisis we are experiencing. But again, Cameroon is at a crossroads. There are widespread protests across the country. Issa Chiroma had asked Cameroonians to come out and make their voices heard, to cause the government to cave in. Will the government cave in? A 43-year-old country, a man with 43 years in power and an apparatus that is highly repressive? And that's a question that might be difficult to answer. What we know, however, is that Cameroonians are in the streets. They are saying that they do not want it anymore. What we also know is that tomorrow is the date set for the results of the presidential election to be announced. And it's been 2 weeks since the country has been waiting. That is the very tail end of the deadline. You might want to know as well that in 1992, it took the government of Cameroon 2 months to announce the results of a highly contested election where every diplomatic source has it that Frundi won hands down. And so I just wanted to draw that similarity for Cameroonians to be aware that 2 weeks is the legal deadline. Tomorrow will be the second week, but in other countries about a similar size, in Ivory Coast, in Senegal, a little smaller, but still a medium-sized country, even when the constitution gives them a certain number of days, in practice, within 24 to 48 hours, the winner of that presidential election is known. The Independent Electoral Committee in Ivory Coast, for example, held a briefing with the press at the close of the polls yesterday or early this morning, and they're already announcing that before night falls today, Ivory Coast will know who its new president is. It's a thing that Cameroon might want to watch and be inspired by, but right until now, it's taking her 2 weeks for the elections to be announced, and this is causing widespread contests. The main opposition or main adversary in this election of Paul Biya is saying, look, he won the presidential election. The government has come out to say that the vote tally sheets that he presented are fake. They, right after postponing the date of the proclamation of results, they carried out a series of sweeping arrests and presented to the press a group of gentlemen whom they claim were in possession of arms, but also were in possession of falsified result slips. That seems to be a script that has been played countless times in the past, where opposition leaders are framed. They are presented and demonized every time the regime seems threatened. And so, is it different this time? Is it a mere coincidence, or is it just business as usual? That is a question that we might not be able to answer, but history has a way of being stubborn and repeating itself. And so we are just here to put that into context. And we are getting information that there are equally protests in another city in the western region called Banja, which we'll be sharing in a brief moment. If you're joining us live, I am Angie Forbin. The name is the same on the handle is the same as the name on Facebook and on YouTube. And it looks like Yaoundé has come out in protest as well. Neighborhoods in Yaoundé are coming out to protest and to demand the departure of a 93-year-old Paul Biya. In Banja, in the western region, there are protests as well. And so Issa Chiroma have people who listened, and something is different this time. In the last presidential election that was equally contested, there were calls for protests. There were massive arrests. But the turnout this time is probably bigger, but also telling of how much these people are fed up. Many of them are experiencing elections for their first time. They had not been interested in the electoral process prior. They were also maybe too young to be allowed to vote, but it looks like they've joined the bandwagon and they've decided that they've had enough and they want the Biya regime to gracefully, peacefully, and quietly step down and concede what they consider a defeat to Issa Chiroma.
Mbah commandant, Mbah commandant m'a filmé. Le commandant lui-même en train de filmer l'événement.
That was Banja. People came out in the streets to protest. One thing that is certain this time is the regime might be having a challenge boxing Issa Chiroma into a tiny little tribe, as they've always done successfully with other opposition candidates. In 1992, there was this whole conversation about Anglo-Bami when Frundi rose to popularity, to fame, to political stardom. Fast forward to a few decades later, they boxed Maurice Kamto into the little tiny corner of Bamileke. And now this time around, we have Isa Chiroma. We see that people are coming out of different places of the country protesting. We just saw videos from the western regions, from the littoral. We saw from the east. We also saw them in the center right now, where we're taking you in Yaoundé, where there are protests equally going on. And so you can clearly tell that with this candidate, the whole myth about tribalizing opposition leaders has just completely falling apart. We're going to go to Yaoundé, where there are protests as well. We'll be bringing you the images shortly. If you're joining us live, we're on Facebook as well as YouTube, and I'm Angie Forbin. Those are signs, Werlen Ever says, those are signs of a failing system. We need energy and a good road network. Anyone can be there, even the devil. So you're looking for the good devil, like the priest in Yagua said before during the electoral campaigns. Okay, we hear you. Noted. But we're taking you to Yaoundé right now, where there are equal protests. Cameroonians are equally protesting and asking for Mr. Biya to step down, and are celebrating what they consider the victory of Issa Chiroma, based on the very valid vote tally sheets that he's been receiving. Or that Mr. Issa Chiroma has produced. And so the Yaoundé Mokolo neighborhood is currently very tense. Cameroonians are protesting. They have heeded Mr. Issa Chiroma's call there, as well as in other cities in the country. They are fed up. How the government reacts to this, how they have usually reacted to popular uprisings and protests, is with violence, with threats, with police crackdowns. Will it be different this time? Well, during the weekend, we know that top allies of Issa Chiroma were arrested and are currently in detention, and some are being framed. How this plays out, Mr. Issa Chiroma feels that his life is at risk. Will they arrest him tomorrow? Will Cameroonians come down in the streets when the verdict is the Constitutional Council declares a winner that doesn't seem will go in the favor of their expectations? Time will surely tell us, even though we don't have the answers to immediately. But what we know is that tomorrow, the Constitutional Council will declare or proclaim a winner. And interestingly, there has never been an election that has not been contested in Cameroon. There's never been an election that has ever been considered free and fair since 1992. In 2011, a group of opposition politicians, including the late Frundi and Ndamjoya, had come together at the UDC headquarters in Yaoundé to call for the annulation, the complete annulment, I beg your pardon, of that election. How things played out eventually, well, we do not know.
Voici le carrefour flamenco. Carrefour flamenco. Carrefour flamenco, Yaoundé 2. Yaoundé 2 est en ébullition. Mamie va faire son travail. Carrefour flamenco. C'est chaud. Carrefour flamenco, Yaoundé 2. Carrefour flamenco, Tinga, Madagascar, Mokolo. C'est les zones qui sont en train de chauffer ici à Yaoundé 2.
And so you can see that all is not calm in Yaoundé 2, where you have the Chinga, Yaoundé as well as Mokolo.
Carrefour flamenco. Biya must go. Là, c'est à Madagascar. Nous sommes ici à Madagascar, ça chauffe.
You can see the uprising in the Yaoundé 2 environs. People have come out to ask for the departure of Mr. Mbah, and see they are recognizing Mr. Chioma as the new president, the third president of Cameroon.
Il faut monter. Allez.
The images
C'est ça qu'on filme.
And the man you see in that video in the front line is Nebe Etoa, who has twice been a victim of the impurity of the judicial system or the BR regime. Twice he was arrested. The first time he was thrown behind bars for trying to protect a lady who was being beaten by her husband in his neighborhood. He came to separate the couple and stand in between so that the woman could be away from harm. And the next thing we knew was that the cops were called on him and he was taken into detention. He was arrested and taken into detention. And so he's been a victim of the system. He has his own strong convictions, a veritable human rights defender. He himself is out in the streets today and is saying that the will of the people must be respected. He believes that Issa Chiroma has won the election. He believes that it is time for Mr. Biya, after 43 years, to step down from power. He's not afraid to go to jail. He's not afraid to die. He thinks that the country deserves better, and this is the reason why he, amongst all the other people who are in the streets today, are out there heeding the call of Issa Chiroma, asking them to defend what they consider the victory of the people.
Biya must go! Biya must go! Biya must go! Biya must go! C'est la fête ici! C'est la fête ici là! Biya must go! Biya must go! Biya must go! Biya must go! Biya must go!
And so we could clearly see a generalized frustration. And they are out in the streets from different walks of lives, different ethnicities. They speak differently, but they have one thing in common. They want change. And they feel that the will of the people should be respected. They feel that the constitutional right to protest should be respected. But right now, we are learning that at least 4 people have been shot at and killed in Kululun, in Douala. After another person lost her life in Garwa earlier in the week or last week. If you're joining us, Angie Forbin, this is me. The name is the same as the handle on YouTube and on Facebook. We'll see again. So sorry that we were not able to connect with Mr. Mbah, Eric Mbah, in these difficult times. What laws protect protesters, what the law says about them, how they can get in touch with a lawyer and navigate the system within the system are some things we would have liked to hear from him. Alas, we were unable to. We hope to bring him again. We hope to be able to bring him at some point during this very difficult time of the country of Cameroon. Until then, bye-bye.